Hi, Gabe Teran, resident of the city of Oxnard, and I'm going to give you a real quick rundown here of the Oxnard 2024 election. I'm going to be focusing on the city council and the mayor seats in this particular video, specifically their campaign finance reports that were just due on September 21st. Certainly, one of the most important topics to me during elections is the money involved in them, especially at the local level. And I don't just mean how much money do they have, but where is it coming from and how's it being used? So we're going to take a quick dive here into the finance reports from the city council and the mayor candidates. And we're going to take a deeper dive into the candidate who thus far has raised the most funds out of everybody. All right, so let's jump in here. These are according to the Form 460s that were filed by the candidates for the reporting period through September 21st. So these are total contributions through that date for them. And thus far, we have Mr. Aaron Starr, who has raised $51,749, followed in second by Mr. Brian McDonald, who has raised $32,179. Keep in mind, these are for the financial disclosure forms that folks have submitted as of the date of this recording. There's another consideration I hope you have here, where we have Mr. Starr with $51,749 in campaign contributions. He's running for the District 3 seat, where Brian McDonald is running for the mayor's seat, which is a citywide election. So a citywide election, just in its nature, would likely require more fundraising and a larger reach because you're going to be doing a lot more work to go to every single district and every neighborhood throughout the city. In a district election, though, you are only having to focus on that particular district. In the city of Oxnard for this election year, districts 3, 4, and 6 are the seats that are up for election this time around. So let's put some context onto that. When we look at the registered voters in District 3, there are 16,767 registered voters according to the county of Ventura, whereas across the city, there are 96,783 voters. But again, Mr. Starr isn't running for a citywide election seat here. He's running for District 3 specifically. So let's stack him up against the other District 3 candidates. So here you can see that we have Oscar Madrigal, who's the current incumbent, and he has raised, as of the end of the reporting period, $4,631. Mr. Rasmussen and Mr. Lopez, their forms weren't available as of the date of this recording, and so that's why zero is just reflected there. But remember, I said when we talk about the money, not only how much is it, but where's it coming from? Let's look at that real quick. So when we dive into Mr. Starr's campaign finances on his reports that he has submitted, you can see that 50,000 of the 51,700 some odd dollars is actually from himself. And you can see that little sliver that's not a pink area is where all of the other contributions have come to for his campaign. So let's take a moment to dive into that little sliver to see where the other funds are coming from. As you can see here, when we zoom in on that little sliver, we have $100 from an Oxnard resident, $500 from a Thousand Oaks resident, $500 from a political action committee that's based out of Irvine, $250 from a North Hollywood resident, $200 from an Oakland resident, and then some undisclosed funds. Now, the undisclosed contributions, if their contribution was under $100, he's not required to disclose where that came from. And that could be people who give him $10, $25, $50. As long as it stays below $100 in the aggregate for this election, he's not required to disclose their name or their address or their occupation as he is with the others who've done contributions. But now let's add a little bit more context onto these finances. So in looking at these, let's take the self-funded loan out of the equation and let's see what that might look like. So if we were to remove the self-funding portion, you can see that Oscar Madrigal rises to the top with $4,631 raised versus Mr. Starr's $1,749 that came from sources other than himself. And with this being a local election, let's also take into account the contributors who are not from Oxnard, either as individuals or as organizations. So when we look at that, we can see that Oscar goes down to $3,504 when you have only Oxnard residents or Oxnard-based organizations as contributors. And Mr. Starr goes to $100 from the contributor who he disclosed had given him that amount. Now, benefit of the doubt, the $199 of undisclosed funds could be from Oxnard residents or organizations as well. So he could have as much as $299 contributed from Oxnard residents or organizations, but as far as what's disclosed already in his finances, we can only account for the $100 as of today. So I said I would dive into the candidate who had the most money so far. And with that being Mr. Starr at $51,000, let's see what that amount of funding in a local election can get somebody. So looking at his campaign finance documents, we find that he spent about $14,000 on a political consulting firm. So this consulting firm does a number of operations for him, including subcontracting things for design, his yard signs, etc. He's also paid a significant amount to this particular company that creates these seemingly handwritten notes. And they look very realistic, I guess, when you mail them out to voters, or if you're going door to door and somebody's not home, it's already pre-printed saying, "Hey, sorry I missed you. Hope to hear from you and contact you soon." You can leave it at their door, and it looks like it was handwritten, but they're truly pre-printed. And thus far, Mr. Starr has spent $12,293 in expenditures going to this particular vendor. Another thing that I think is really important for folks to be aware of are slate mailers. And according to his finance documents, Mr. Starr has paid to be included in two slate mailers thus far. So, what these slate mailers do is you can pay to have yourself featured in their mailers that will go directly to voters during the election cycle. And in Mr. Starr's case, according to his documents, he has paid to be included in the COPS voter guide and another slate mailer called Educate Your Vote. These particular slate mailers appear to give the impression to the reader that the candidate who is paid to appear in them has some level of support from law enforcement or from educators. And just to be sure, I reached out to the Oxnard Peace Officers Association and the Oxnard Federation of Teachers and School Employees, and I asked each of them separately about these slate mailers. And they did confirm that neither of their respective organizations has any affiliation with these particular mailers. The Educate Your Vote mailer actually has some examples on their website of what their previous mailers have looked like. And you can see this is one that was from the previous election. And you can see these little asterisks that are here next to the proposition numbers. And those asterisks indicate that this particular placement was a paid placement for that messaging going out to the voter. In California, they're also required to have these disclosures that this is actually a paid placement. And you can see in a very small font there on the top right, it says advertisement. And then it has this important disclosure here on the bottom left. And I just hope folks can take a look at this and recognize that if they have an asterisk next to their name or there's some other disclosure on that, many of the candidates and propositions that are appearing in this voter guide have paid to be placed there in front of you. And the last thing I'll say about them is that slate mailers also have the ability to be incredibly specific in the demographics that they reach out to. For example, they could provide assurance to the candidate that their mailers will land in the mailboxes of voters who are female, who are registered with a particular political party, who have a certain belief about certain social issues, et cetera, et cetera. I have a link in this post to a really great article about slate mailers if you'd like to learn more about them. All right, so let me know down in the comments what you think about money in local elections. If you would like to dig into these yourself, you can find them. They are public information on the city clerk's portion of the city's website. All right, thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next video.